A-minus cat.
Shout out to my boy KB Goes Live, and most importantly, Mars fans, shout out to y'all for tapping in. This video is Max B, the innocent rapper sentenced to 75 years for nothing. Now, I don't know if it was really for nothing. I heard allegedly he was behind a robbery that went wrong or something like that. I don't know too much, but without further ado, for the information, we're gonna get straight into the video.
At one point, Max B was dominating the streets of New York with his music, making a certified come up alongside some of his day one homies like French Montana. Known for his melodic bars and insanely catchy hooks, Max B, also known as the Silver Surfer, also known as the Wave, seemed like he would be breaking the doors of the rap game down after signing with Jim Jones and becoming part of the Bird Gang. But fate had a different series of events lined up for Max B, and after a robbery gone wrong, the rapper would seemingly see his entire future ripped away in the blink of an eye. Today, we're going to be talking about the story of Max B and how he was sentenced to 75 years for a crime that he more than likely didn't even commit. So without further ado, let's go. Max B, real name Charles Wingate, was coming straight out of the streets of New York City. Like many from this area, he had a tough start right out of the gate, taken to a life of hustling and grinding in his early teens. This normally leads to situations where people find themselves ducking the law due to their activity in the streets, but Max B avoided catching any cases in his early years. But evading any trouble in his early years may have only strengthened his faith in the streets. When kids never see a negative side of their actions, it can often lead to them thinking that they're untouchable. Whether or not this is what happened to Max B is up to speculation, but what we do know is that he never found a reason to change his street ways, and while he avoided legal issues growing up, his luck didn't last forever. As soon as Max B turned 18 years old, he found himself wrapped up in another robbery that resulted in him receiving an 8-year prison sentence, meaning that he would be well on his way to 30 by the time that he got out. While this may seem like something negative, Max B actually used the punishment as fuel for his fire and utilized every moment that he was in there to work on his craft of rapping. For Max, the first sentence was more of a blessing than anything. When he was free, he spent all of his time on the streets, but getting locked up allowed him to have ample idle time. And it was this idle time that would lead to him writing hundreds of songs. Sometimes he didn't even write lyrics while he was in there, just sentences and ideas that he could expand on at later times. In fact, it was during his first bid that he was given his rap name, Max B, short for Max Bigavell, which is also a combination of two rappers' names, Biggie, Jay-Z, who also went by Jigga, and Tupac, who frequently went by Michael. He slammed the three names together and came up with Max Bigavell, a pretty big comparison to make and standard to set for itself.
You know, your name is Max B, aka Max Bigavell. We know Bigavell stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the name
Machiavelli, baby?
Yeah.
Big Jig Machiavelli.
But this is the thing though. But where did the name Max come from? Where did Max come from? We know Bigavell, but where did actually Max come from?
Max came from. Let me tell you where Max came from. So, quick story, right? When I was in jail, my first bid, right? When I was first started rapping, this probably like 99. I would say about 99. I was into it. Right? I was writing my music. My name was still Freddie Grand, right? I had Freddie Grand, I had Fred Lawson, Fettuccine. These are my first names that I started using when I was writing music. So, my big dude up there, they used to hold me down, big judge, you know what I'm saying? Big 6'5", 300 pounds. Used to hold me down.
Okay.
We was talking one day. I'm like, yo, I want to change my name.
Okay.
He like, yo, your name already Fettuccine. I said, what you want to change your name for? I'm like, I don't know. I want some more pop to my. I want my to sound crazy, like
more catchy.
I want that to sound like my Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Pepsi. You know what I'm saying? I want that to sound crazy. I want it to be a brand.
You wanted to stand out.
I said, yo. He said, what you want to change your name to? I said, I don't know. So we changed the topic and we started talking about different prisons. So I go, what the fuck I'm gonna change my name to? So we start talking about prisons. And he's saying Jack Shaki was a Max Dave or Max B. I said, oh.
Run at that.
I said, go back. I said, what's, he said Max B. He said Max B. I said, Max B. I said, that's it.
That's the one.
He said, what you mean that's it? I said, no, listen to that. Look what you just said. Look how you said it. Max B. He said, Max B. I like that. I said, all right, call me Max B from now on. So this is 99.
This is
I
99.
was still trying to figure out what the B gonna stand for about 3 to 4 years.
Really, huh? Okay.
Figure that out.
And he just put it together.
You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't really figure, I couldn't put pinpoint what the beat meant. So I had that for 3 years. And when I came back on the violation, and I was writing my music, right? I was in the violation, and I was writing 10 hours a day. It just came to me one time. I said, oh, Bigger Valley.
Bigger Valley.
Bigger Valley. I said, Bigger Valley. I said, hold on. Bigger Valley. Big. Chicka changing. Bigger Valley. I said, oh. Max. Bigger Valley.
And it flows so perfectly.
Somebody asked me what it means. I could say this is a combination of Big, Chicka, and Machiavelli all together. And when I came up with the full name, I knew then I was ready. I wasn't ready before then.
In 2005,
I mean,
Max was released from prison with
It's different because it's not like the regular Lil, whatever basic, you know what I'm saying, names people go by with Lil in it or whatever. So it's like, it fits.
his new name and all of the songs that he wrote while he was on the inside. He was ready to get it popping and started recording his songs immediately. But even with the new name and career plan, it took less than a year for him to find himself back in another robbery situation. Only this time, it was much worse. This time, it happened in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and involved over $30,000 in cash and one 29-year-old man who would lose his life after being shot at point blank range, execution style. Crazy thing is, Max B wasn't even on the scene when it all went down. The man who pulled the trigger was Max B's stepbrother, Kevin Leardom. The only other person who was there to do the robbery was Max B's girlfriend at the time, named Gina Conway. She turned herself into the police a few days after it all happened, and this is where Max B got dragged into the situation. After she took a plea deal and gave testimony that implicated him, she claimed that Max was the mastermind behind the entire thing. Gina was an exotic dancer. It was during her job that she met the victim, who frequented the establishment that she worked at and was considered a big spender when he was there. According to her, she told Max about it, and that's when he hatched a plan to rob the guy and recruited his stepbrother. They had devised a plan to tie up, gag, and rob a man named Alan J. Plowden at a hotel that he was staying at, but ended up shooting another man named David Taylor. Taylor was staying in the room with Plowden, and the gang didn't notice when they planned the robbery. When the robbery started, Plowden was the only one in the room, as David had gone out to run some errands. He returned to the hotel mid-robbery, and in a panic, Max's stepbrother shot him in the head. David Taylor didn't possess any of the money that they were there to rob the guy for. Plowden, the intended target, called the police to report the murder and was discovered by the police when they arrived, attempting to remove $30,000 in cash from the hotel room. He was eventually charged with identity theft and money laundering, while Max B, his girl, and his brother were all arrested for the crime. Now I'll play you guys the news clip, but there was only one version of it online, and the guy who uploaded it put this loud beat over the top of it, and you really couldn't hear what the reporters were saying. Now I did what I could to remove the beat from the vocals and make the audio clean and crisp again, but the audio might be a little sketchy in this clip because of that cleanup, but I did the best that I could. Here's the clip.
Authorities in Bergen County say they've solved the murder at a hotel in Fort Lee. 1 week ago today, police were called to the Holiday Inn on Route 4. A man was shot to death. It's a tale of money laundering, prostitution, and 2 separate robbery plans. That is our top story heading into 5 o'clock. News 12 because Sherry Hensley is at the courthouse in Hackensack. Sherry, a lot of people have been arrested in this strange case of robbery and murder.
Dylan, you cannot make this kind of stuff up. A total of 9 people are under arrest today. Now, this case involves 2 separate groups of people, each with their eye on $30,000. In the end, first group beat the second group to the punch.
Damn,
These are
2 people's
Wild Wild West groups that are operating independently. And poor Mr. Taylor suffered at least by something
2 groups of people
obviously completely unnecessary.
Prosecutor John Molinelli calls this case a bit bizarre. Complicated, more like it. It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 227. His friend Anthony Plowden is in room 408.
We do know that they carried a lot of cash. They flashed a lot of cash. They did live the highlight coming up here to New Jersey.
At the time of the shooting, both Plowden and Taylor each had a prostitute with them, Mike Castro and Giselle Nieves. The women were introduced to them by a third man, Julio Cruz. It's Cruz who hatches a plan, along with his friend Edward Blankenau, to rob Plowden and Taylor.
They asked Ms. Nieves and Ms. Castro to, quote, soften them up, as we use the phrase, to make them loose and to let their guard down, which would allow them to be robbed easily.
Meantime, another group of people had the same idea. It began when this woman, Gina Marie Conway, a prostitute who'd been with Plowden, told her boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max V, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out.
So Max B was basically dating a prostitute. That's crazy.
To this man, Calvin Leardom.
He and Gina Marie Conway go to the hotel room on that fateful morning, September 22nd, and he is the individual that fires the shot that kills Mr. Taylor.
And after Mr. Taylor was shot, Leardom and Conway took the valuables on of some $800 along with Rolex and some other items. They never found the $30,000. That money was hidden in the hotel room, but it was found by the Bergen County prosecutor.
Max spent 1 year in prison for this right here, but was released on a $2 million bond while he was pending trial. At this point, he decided it was time to take the music thing seriously, making it his main focus. He got in touch with Cameron, and Cameron put him in touch with Jim Jones. Jim and Max hit it off right from the jump.
And some people say that's what things were
even
left.
formed a new crew based around a new relationship called the Bird Gang. A few other members of the Bird Gang were Stack Bundles, R.I.P. to
Rest in
him,
peace,
and
Stack
Mel
Bundles.
Matrix, who's currently in prison because of the whole Tekashi situation. Max and Jim started recording music immediately. Shortly after this, Max released his debut album called $1 Million Baby, which took the underground rap world by storm. He also wrote and worked for other artists as well. For example, Jim Jones' biggest song, We Fly High, was written by Max B. However, the two's relationship would quickly start to deteriorate when Max started noticing his pockets were looking slim in comparison to Jim's, even though he had penned most of the records that were being released. That, plus he said that when concerts were being done, Jim Jones would make $10,000 to $15,000, while he would only
Gave
make
him
like $300. In an interview with Complex in 2013, he said, "Number one, I write all the records around here. Number two, all the records we producing in the studio, these are my singles you putting out. Radio spins. Where's my when I go perform at a show and you make an excess amount of dollars, you making like 10 to 15,000. How the f is you giving me 300? I'm doing 8, 9 freaking records. I'm out here sweating too. When you got drama and beef in different cities and Muff is throwing chairs at you on the stage, they throwing them at me too. I want my money." This is what all the beef started stemming from.
I made the hooks. I made the melodies. Yeah.
Okay, now it's more understandable.
I'm the man. He just was a part of it.
He wanted out of his deal, but when it came time for that to happen, he
didn't
found
want it.
himself with his back against the wall. Jim Jones wasn't hearing none of it, and according to Max B, in order to be released from his contract, he had to write over 10 albums for Jim Jones. However, he was eventually released from his contract, and once he was, he started lighting the streets up with project after project, and he was starting to build a very heavy following, especially in the streets of New York. I mean, he was on fire. This man was catching more vibes than rappers catching RICO charges. But while he was building it all up, that robbery charge was still looming in the background, and Max was still out on bail pending trial. Right at the peak of his popularity, this case would come to a close. The girl who ratted on him was sentenced and looking at 12 to 18 years, but Max B, who wasn't even on the scene and didn't pull the trigger, was sentenced to a ridiculous 75 years, even though there was no actual proof that he masterminded the plan, aside from the testimony of Gina, which is his ex-girlfriend. His stepbrother was sentenced to life plus 35 years. Max B seemed to
Damn,
remain
life
unfazed
plus
by it,
35
though,
years
almost
is
like he
crazy.
didn't believe that he would have to sit down and do the whole 75 years. He even did a before I go to jail interview.
AKA Lil Charlie. We here. He's my boy. Before we walk the plank, we going up in there in style, man. Let's go, man. Hey, high, man. Let's go.
Due to the significant buzz that he had built, though, there was outrage among the fans when he was sentenced. The perception across the board was that Max B was sentenced so heavily because the courts wanted to make an example out of him. The people that were involved in the trial and around the trial at the time felt like the courts seen hip-hop as a place where criminals go to break the law together, and they felt like the courts wanted to send a message that they weren't having it. Regardless of why he was sentenced so heavily, he was handed a 75-year sentence, and it was time to lay down and give up his freedom. But this time, it wasn't Charlie who was getting sentenced. It was Max B. And he decided he wasn't gonna let a little jail time hold his career back. He had already worked on Coke Boys 2 with French Montana, and they continued to work together even though Max didn't have his freedom. In fact, it was this relationship with Max B that ended up getting French hot in the first place and has led to several record deals for him throughout his career. French has become a loyal friend to Max over the years and has always played the advocate for Max's innocence, even getting Kim Kardashian on board to try to help out. Now, you would think that getting 75 years in prison would be the end of a rap career, but Max B did have another stroke of luck a few years back when his prison sentence was reduced from 75 to 12 years and his charges were downgraded from murder to aggravated manslaughter.
What's Max's current status? Every time I talk to you on camera or publicly, you always gotta get an update check.
Yeah, he's in the camps right now. So after the camps is
okay, so he's moving along. He's close to freedom.
Yeah, close to freedom.
Okay.
But, he
need to speed that process up.
75 years off, and now he's like almost like 15 down there. So he should be good soon.
Throughout the years, Max B has even been doing features and dropping his own songs from behind the prison walls with projects like House Money and Charlie. He's even kept up with the times and has a verified Instagram account from which he goes live sometimes. Max B has already served the majority of time that he was sentenced to, and if he can keep his head down and stay on the straight and narrow, freedom might not be that far away. When he gets out, do y'all think that he's gonna run the rap game? Let me know. Anyways, that's it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, tap the notification.
Shout out to my boy KB. I feel like he should be out for the end of this year. Probably 2024. I can't wait, man, because he could still flow with, I'm saying, the new artists today, especially when he did that track with A Boogie, I'm So Cold. Other tracks like that, and I know he still got a lot of unreleased. I'm pretty sure he probably got somebody holding it for him. But get in the comment section down below. Let me know what y'all think about this video and what other videos y'all want me to react to. With that being said, I appreciate y'all for all the love and support. Love is love, and I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video.